Message from Starfleet Command, top priority.
You are listening to the TrekRanks podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 181, featuring the top 5 recurring actors. Welcome, Star Trek fans. I am Jim Moorhouse. I'm the host of the TrekRanks podcast, and tonight we have another great topic for you. Tonight we're doing one of our rare out-of-universe production topics. Tonight we're doing our top 5 recurring actors, and I should say right off that the full title for this topic, as I've told our two guests, it should be Top 5 Recurring Character Actors Not Named Jeffrey Combs or Vaughn Armstrong. And we'll get into what I mean by that in our diagnostic cycle. But first, let's introduce our great guest tonight. First up, returning to TrekRanks for the 5th time and hailing us again all the way from the Korea sector, it's Mr. Daniel Martin. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you so much, Jim. I always say this, it's always true. It's an absolute delight to be here. I love coming on TrekRanks.
So great to have you back on, and this topic's going to be perfect. And our second guest tonight, back for his 3rd TrekRanks appearance, connecting with us from the New York City cluster, it's Mr. Peter Hong. Peter, welcome back, man.
Hello. Hey, Jim. It's great to be back. It's always fun to chat Star Trek with everybody.
Yeah, no doubt.
Daniel.
And it's so funny, Peter, because when I asked you to be on this topic, you reminded me that your first TrekRanks topic, episode 131, like 2 years ago, we did top 5 one-off guest stars.
Yes, yeah.
Not only did I not remember that you were on that show, I had no memory of ever even doing that topic. So we're basically doing the exact opposite tonight, Peter.
No, this is great. This sort of complements the episode that we did with the one-off guest stars. So I kind of pulled out my notes and just, looked through them all and had good memories, and we'll do something similar. So
well, it's so funny. When we did that episode, I called it version 1.0 because I was determined to do it again because there's so many options. And then I forgot we ever did it. So someday we'll do version 2.0 of that. All right, going to be a great show. Let's get into our TrekRanks recalibration.
What are you recalibrating? Everything. It's a sweeping, a recalibration of all systems.
Okay, the TrekRanks Charter has 2 clauses. We rank Trek so we can have a fun conversation about Star Trek, and 2, the ranks don't matter. We just use them as the framework to have a deep dive conversation about all the things we love about Star Trek. And as the Vulcan Master likes to tell us,
infinite diversity.
Infinite combinations.
There are no wrong answers at TrekRanks. This show is about sharing the things we love about Trek, and we love it all. From TOS to TNG, straight through the Enterprise, the Kelvin timeline, now Discovery, Picard, Strange New World, Short Treks, Lower Decks, and Prodigy as well. It's all fair game here on the TrekRanks podcast.
Black alert. Black alert.
And a reminder, this episode of TrekRanks is current through the 4th season of Star Trek Lower Decks and 903 overall episodes of Star Trek across the past 57 years. And one final reminder, we use episodes as a shorthand term, but the 13 films are always in play as well.
Hailing frequencies open.
Thank you, Mr. Warp. You can hail me directly on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise and Extra. And I'm on Blue Sky at TrekRanks, and you can see our extensive rankings of all the Treks at TrekRanks.com. And don't forget to also leave us a message with your own picks at 609-512-LLAP. That's 609-512-5527. All right, Dan and Peter, let's wrap it up. Let everyone know how they can get a hold of you on Subspace. Dan.
I'm mostly off Subspace right now because the Subspace frequencies I used to use have gone terrible. But I still kind of hang around on what used to be Twitter at DRDSM. I'm going to get on Blue Sky at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, if you want to find me and you want to talk about Trek, Twitter's your best bet for that for now.
The fading reality of our social media interactions. Peter, how about you?
Sure. I'm still on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter. My handle is at PeterTrek1, the number 1. That's also the same handle that I use on Blue Sky. And I'm also on Mastodon, which is at PeterTrek1 at universeodon.com. And finally, I'm also the host of the Trek Book Club on Twitter. And you can reach us at Trek Book Club, where we discuss Star Trek novels and approximately once every 6 weeks over a weekend.
All right. Love the Trek Book Club. Great job over there. Okay, we are now ready to run a diagnostic cycle to get into the show.
Computer, run a level 2 diagnostic.
Okay, so we have a few things to cover in this diagnostic cycle. I'm going to rattle them off here. First up, I love this topic because, as we mentioned before, this is one of our out-of-universe topics from a production angle. So I started thinking about how many out-of-universe topics have we actually done on TrekRanks. So here's the answer. This is the 33rd time out of 180 episodes that we've done something out-of-universe on TrekRanks. But that number includes 16 of our season recap shows, which are obviously out of the universe. So if you take those away, we've done 16 straight true out-of-universe topics out of 180, which is a pretty cool little breakdown. And that includes the one you were on, Peter, one-off guest stars. So, all right. And then second, for this topic, what do we mean by top 5 recurring actors? So here's a few qualifiers that we talked about. So we're not looking for Vaughn Armstrong or Jeffrey Combs. We did a whole Vaughn Armstrong show back on episode 119. That was like 3 years ago. And we are definitely going to do a Jeffrey Combs show at some point. And then we're looking for recurring character actors, right? So not like series leads. So, we're not picking Tim Russ, right? He was a recurring actor on Star Trek, but then he became a regular actor on Star Trek. So not looking for that. We're looking for more kind of the recurring kind of character actor that kind of disappears into different roles. And, of course, finally, our third update. This is TrekRanks. You can do whatever you want in your Prime Directive. Cheating, highly encouraged at all times. All right, let's get into our Prime Directives now.
Do they know about Prime Directive? They know everything I know, sir.
And you're about to know everything we know about our Prime Directive. So, Daniel, we're going to start with you. How did you define your Prime Directive and make your picks?
This one I've found really difficult, I'll be honest, Jim. Usually when I come on TrekRanks, my picks kind of really fall into place and lock in really quickly. But I just kept remembering actors and think, oh yeah, I can't not mention this person. And I have a funny feeling that for this entire episode, every other pick, I'm going to go, oh, of course. Because it'll be someone who I should have thought of but overlooked. So it was tough, and I tried hard not to make it a list of just like my favorite interesting minor characters. I tried to really think about the performances themselves, think about versatility, actors who were really showing their range across multiple appearances as different characters, So that's what I felt like the spirit of the episode was all about. So that was really my main determining factor. I mean, you say that the ranks don't matter. I think the ranks don't matter is especially true here. I put them in the order that I want to talk about them. But, I feel like I should just say, because these are real people, that I'm not saying my number 4 pick is more talented than my number 5 pick or anything like that. Yeah. So that was mainly my thinking, as I always try to do when I come on. My soup round pick flagrantly disregards the rules in an attempt to, more truly evoke the spirit of what we're trying to do here. So that's something that I'm excited about. And then I've got a pick on my list that I do think is quite obvious and I think very appropriate. And I'm really glad that we'll all have the chance to talk about him when we get there.
Oh my God. there are some obvious ones, but who knows with this broad topic. So if any listeners remember, Daniel is a Klingon expert. That's how we met at a convention. Did you try to work in some Klingons to your angles there?
Well, we'll have to wait and see, Jim.
Okay, we'll have to wait and see. He did. He totally did. Okay, Peter, how about you? How did you break it all down?
Sure. I tried to actually. First thing I did was try to avoid some of the like recurring characters that are appeared a lot in Star Trek. So like Aaron Eisenberg, he is Nog, but he was also Par in Voyager. Yeah. So Mark Alaimo, was caught, but he, had a few other roles. But he was known for that, and Salome Jens and John Fleck. So I kind of avoided those because they're well known in the one specific character. I tried to pick actors who appeared as like once or twice in the different roles. So was well known for a specific character. I went with live action Trek, so I went with that, and I tried to spread the series that the episode for each character sort of around. So like 4 out of 4, and then I had one series that got it twice. And I had the same thought that Daniel had with the order. So my number 5 and my number 1 are pretty much equal. So
Yeah.
it's not really a ranking in that respect because I enjoyed all their performances
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
as all these different characters. So it's just 5 characters that 5 actors that I wanted to talk about. But the rankings are a little bit less important, like Daniel said.
I love it. I mean, you guys, basically everything you guys listed is my prime directive. So, I mean, I was pretty straightforward, but I have a ton of criteria. So, I was looking for like actors who both kind of are impressive with their craft, but also they kind of lose themselves in the character. So, you kind of forget it's this actor you're seeing over and over again. And then, they really make it their own, they make it unique. I also wanted to make sure each of my picks was in at least 2 different incarnations of Trek, and I focused on live action. I don't think I have any animated picks. And I wanted to make sure they had at least 4 characters. So how about that? I went all the way to 4 different characters. So that's a lot. So yeah, so impress me with their craft. You kind of lose the actor in the character, appeared in at least 2 different Trek series, portrayed at least 4 different characters. Oh, and also like what you said, Peter, I made sure I didn't pick anyone who played a long time recurring character. Like 1 or 2 appearances maximum is what I had. So, so if they played like 5 or 10 times that character, I took him off the list, which was John Fleck, right? He was going to be number 1 on my list. I love that guy. Sillick, John Fleck's amazing career character actor, but I took him off. And then, I have a couple of deep cuts, a couple of heavy hitters, and maybe 1 or 2 in between. So I think we're all generally in the same space for what we're looking for. And I bet we'll probably have a wide variety of picks here. Okay, third Mnemonic, introduce us to the order.
I am a Jem'Hadar. He is a Vorta. It is the order of things.
Thank you, Third Mnemonic. As always, everyone will start with their 5-word summary and hashtag to tease their pick. Then we'll each reveal our top 5 recurring actor choices and the reasons we're highlighting it. And this is important. Everyone's going to pick 1 episode to associate with their pick. And after getting through 5 rounds of picks, we'll then get a few secondary system selections from everyone. And remember, if we have any duplicate picks, make sure you listen for the Defiant Torpedoes. All right, Daniel, we'll start with you. What's your number 5 pick for your top 5 recurring actor who's not really number 5? He's just on your list. Go.
All right, okay, let's fly. So I'm starting off with a heavy hitter. I think you'll know exactly who it is from my 5 words and my hashtag, but let's go. Father, grandfather, chef, admiral, traitor. Hashtag, get him back, get him back. This is the mighty Brock Peters, who was, of course, Admiral Cartwright in the 2 best Trek films and an amazing presence as Joseph Sisko in Deep Space Nine. I just think, I mean, you think about Avery Brooks, and I mean, all the other cast of Deep Space Nine have talked about what an incredible presence he is and how intimidating it was to kind of, act opposite him. And so I think the casting of his father was something that was very loaded with expectation, and they had to get it right. And to bring in like a genuine Hollywood legend and such a credible actor who brought real, nuance to the role. He's kind of affable, but he's kind of stern. He's kind of vulnerable, but he's commanding. And then to contrast that with his appearance as, that's initially sympathetic, but ultimately, treacherous Admiral Cartwright in the films. I just think it's a perfect bit of Trek casting. And I think he's a brilliant actor.
Yeah, Brock Peters is on my very, very long list of secondary systems picks, and I couldn't pick him because he was recurring so much as, of course, as Ben Sisko's father. So, Peter, what's your take on Brock Peters?
Yeah, no, that's a great pick, and it was also on that long list of potential picks for today. So I definitely enjoyed him as as Joe Sisko and as Admiral Cartwright. I think with Joe Sisko, like you said, Daniel, he could be funny, he could be stern, to Benjamin and to Jake. So he had sort of that gamut of emotions. And I was actually watching, I think it was Homefront just recently. I think to sort of get ready for this episode. And when Ben wanted him to take the the blood test to see if he was a changeling. He had those types of scenes that in which his sternness came out. So very, very great actor.
Daniel, what episode did you pick for Brock Peters as Joseph Sisko, the great Joseph Sisko?
Peter's bang on the money. I picked Homefront, Deep Space Nine, season 4, episode 11. I mean, exactly for that great scene in the restaurant kitchen where, he cuts his hand, and there's that moment of Sisko can't help but be suspicious, and his father's reaction. It's amazing. This explosion of emotion when he's like, this is exactly what they want. They want us to not trust each other. And it was great because you almost feel like he's someone who's outside all of the, the stress and the politics of Starfleet. And he's got such a great read on the crisis. And I think that's probably his best scene, I think, across all of Star Trek. So
I was going to say,
my pick.
It's either that or Far Beyond the Stars. Right? It's legendary. And I was thinking, as you were talking there, he was in To Kill a Mockingbird, right? Such an incredible performance. And now I'm thinking about it, it's full circle, with Gregory Peck, who's Ethan Peck's grandfather. Crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I've never made that connection before until right now. It's kind of the whole point with recurring actors. Okay, amazing. Joseph Sisko. Peter, what is sorry, not just Joseph Sisko. Brock Peters is the pick. Peter, what's your round 5 pick?
Okay, 5 words and a hashtags. It's the order of things. Hashtag from TOS to Voyagers. My number 5 pick is Phil Morris.
Oh man, that is such a good pick. Wait a second. How do I not have Phil Morris, one of my all-time favorites? Yeah. He's not. I have a long secondary system, and he's not on it. I am embarrassed right now. I love him.
Yeah. No, he was Lieutenant John Kelly on Voyager's One Small Step, which actually is my episode representative to Phil Morris.
Ares 4. Mission record October 25th. This has been a nice place to visit, but I'm ready to come home. I prepped the ion drive. Channeled all the power from the thruster reserves into the main tank. I have enough fuel for one last engine burn. Wish me luck.
But he was also third Romanticlon from DS9's Robson Strolls. He was Thopok in DS9's Looking for Parmok in all the wrong places. And a couple of earlier roles, he was Cadet Foster in The Search for Spock. And he actually had a cameo in TOS's Miri as one of the kids, even though he's more of a cameo. But definitely his roles as John Kelly and Third Romanticlon are some of my favorite of his roles in Trek. Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't get much better than John Kelly. It's an awesome pick. And I love the fact that he was in TOS and Miri with his sister, who came back and was in some Voyager in Workforce. What is your take on Phil Morris, Daniel? Amazing pick.
I think that's a great pick. I love picks like this that always remind me that the distance of time between TOS and the rest of Trek is not as long as we sometimes think it is. That you could recur across the franchise. And I mean, I've got a massive kind of regard for all of those guest actors who play Jem Hadar under some very heavy makeup, but still so many of them were such great performers and really did so much with their roles. So I love that pick.
I think it was that third Romanticlon. He really had that kind of a sympathetic character, so he knew what was going on, but he still followed his duty. So
Peter, I love this pick so much. I'm so excited. So it goes perfectly with my next pick for a couple of reasons. First off, my pick was in an episode with your pick. They both played Klingons. And my pick, you have also, so you've already heard Phil Morris on this show because he is third in Monocon and you hear him every show. You've already heard my pick on this show too. And he's an actor who was part of TOS all the way to Enterprise. 5 words and a hashtag. Powerful, cutting voice transcends performances. Hashtag 6 characters, 7 episodes. It is Joseph Ruskin, Galt from the Gamesters of Triskelion. One of my favorite character actors from my childhood, and just seeing him in all these shows. So he played 6 characters in all 5 Legacy series. So he had Galt in the Gamesters of Triskelion, my pick. He was and some of these are like minor background characters, right? He was a Sona officer in Insurrection. He was, yeah, he was Groka's aide in House of Quark and Looking for Parmok, and Phil Morris was in Looking for Parmok as a Klingon. He was the Cardassian informant who you only really heard his incredible voice in Improbable Cause. And of course, he's the Vulcan master from Gravity and Voyager, who you've already heard on this show. And this one's incredible to me. He was 77 years old in full Suliban makeup, playing this tiny role as a Suliban doctor in Broken Bow. I mean, this is the guy who was in The Twilight Zone, To Serve Man, and all these incredible shows from the 70s and 80s.
As the captains, I can see you will all prove invaluable here. I am Gold, Master Thrall of the planet Triskelion. I have been sent to welcome you.
So a little trivia. He died in 2013 at the age of 89 from Haverhill, Massachusetts. I always thought he was European, so I never knew that. And oh yeah, one more little note. Gamesters of Triskelion was my first ever pick on TrekRanks back in episode NX00 when we did our Kirk episodes. So all of that detail, Daniel, what's your take on Joseph Ruskin?
I'm going to be honest. I only really think of him in the role of Tumek. I mean, obviously, it's not just I'm obsessed with Klingons, but it was he did so much with such a small role. The old warrior who's like wondering, does he have to suffer these indignities in his final days? Of like seeing the house under the leadership of a Ferengian, and just as a counterpoint to what was going on between Worf and Grilka, I think he was really, really added so much unappreciated charm to that whole dynamic. So that's really where I go when you talk about him, and that's what the performance of his that I think of. Totally
get that. Peter, what's your take on Joseph Ruskin?
I think definitely Galt. I remember from Gamesters. Sort of, he has that imposing. I guess he was very tall and maybe with the cloak, but he had that imposing nonverbal, presence around him. And then with Looking for Parmok, I remember that scene in which he was, I think, trying to counsel Worf on sort of what he should do and what he shouldn't do. And I think he was very, kind of a nice, a nice Klingon, sort of a
he was helpful,
an uncle, helpful, yeah. So I think that was good. And
I love him, so good. All right, let's go to round 4. Daniel, what do you got?
Okay, I've got a real deep cut, but this is not me trying to just be clever. This is weirdly the first thing that popped into my mind when you said this.
Okay.
It's a couple of quite minor performances that I just really think are so, so great. So my 5 words and a hashtag. Is she good or bad? Hashtag sexy Vorta. This is Caitlin Hopkins, who played Kilana in The Ship in Deep Space Nine, and then played the imposter Janeway in one of my favorite season 6 Voyager episodes, Live Fast and Prosper. And there's something.
Legit?
Yeah, I mean, I just like the Ship was an episode that really, really, it pulled me in, and I was completely in the hands of the writers of that episode, because every previous Vorta we've ever seen on Deep Space Nine has been the most duplicitous, two-faced, treacherous person. And then she comes along, and of course we don't trust her. And of course Cisco doesn't trust her. We cannot believe a word out of her lying, smiling face. And then this twist at the end that she was being completely sincere and genuine. It's just this gut punch. And, like the cost of that distrust on both sides. was devastating. I just thought she was so brilliant playing the nuances of, we are supposed to not trust her, but she's got to play it straight as if she's sincere.
You should have trusted me.
How could I? The first word out of your mouth was a lie. This isn't your first mission outside the Dominion, is it?
I regret saying that. But my offer was genuine. All that mattered to me was the Founder.
Then you should have told me about him.
You might have killed him or made him a hostage.
No. All I wanted was the ship.
And I was willing to let you take it.
And I really thought that was a great, great performance. So when she shows up again in Voyager, in this really fun role as this imposter Janeway, this, a bald alien called Darla, you're kind of waiting then for this redemption arc that never comes. She is just a terrible person who does terrible things. And I think technically she's only the third person ever to say the words, "I'm Captain Catherine Janeway," after, Genevieve Bujold, of course, and Kate Mulgrew. So I think she's really earned her place in the pantheon of great Trek guest actors. So I really wanted her on my list.
I love this pick. She totally deserves it. I mean, that's what a recurring character actor does. Those two. I mean, there's a lot of characters I thought of like this that I eliminated because I wanted to go deeper. But she's so good in the ship. So good in Live Fast and Pro. Wait, which one did you pick? The ship or? I have to go for the ship just because I'm so into the Dominion, and that was the episode that really grabbed me. I remember reading an article on her. She's like a teacher now, I think, and there's been a few it was an article where it was like this realization of like, wait, people still talk about my performances in those roles. It was that kind of those kind of quotes, and I always like seeing that kind of thing. Peter, what's your take on Caitlin Hopkins?
Yeah, actually, it's a great pick. It actually was my number 6 pick. So,
wow.
Yeah, I had Caitlin Hopkins in my top 5, and then very recently I made a couple of switch, so she switched off to my number 6 pick. So, same, exactly the reasons that Dan talked about, the sort of a memorable performance in the ship and also in the Live Fast and Prosper. So like you said, like the previous Vortas, they sort of tend to be similar, but she was kind of a memorable character, memorable role in both of them, as the fake Janeway as well. And I always found that's one of my sort of humorous, lighthearted favorite episodes. Live Fast and Proper is kind of a sort of the convention. It's almost like Star Trek convention type references. So that was the fun. So definitely she's good.
The bigger the combats, the better. Okay, Peter, what is your number 4 pick?
Okay, my number 4 pick. 5 words and a hashtag. First ally, then adversary again. Hashtag misdirection specialist. My number 4 pick is Robert Foxworth.
Oh, yes.
He had 2 roles. He was Admiral Lighton in the one we talked about, Paradise Lost and Home Prize. We just talked about it. So he was Admiral Lighton, and he was also Administrator Velas in the Enterprise, the Kirshara trilogy, The Forge, Awakening, Kirshara. So he had a similar. It actually didn't hit me until I was doing my TrekRanks homework. He kind of had a similar. Both characters had a similar, modus operandi. They tried to sort of set someone else up to take the blame for what the characters were plotting. Admiral Lighton was trying to blame the Dominion, trying to simulate or get the people on Earth thinking that there will be a Dominion attack, while he was just trying to stage a coup, and trying to overthrow the president or the Federation president. And Velas, he was the leader of the Vulcan High Council, and he was trying to put the blame on the Sirenites, and then he was trying to attack Andoria and sort of start a war there. So he kind of had a similar, both characters had this highly respected title and position, but they were authority figures, but they also had ulterior motives. So I
thought of this one too. He's on my secondary systems as well. Wait, which episode did you pick?
I picked Kashara, Enterprise Season 4.
Where it all falls apart. The characters are so similar, and he just chews the scenery. He's really good at that. Really, really good at that. Although I will never forgive him for killing Joanna Cassidy in Awakening. Another great character actor, who, by the way, he was married to in 6 Feet Under. In that show, 6 Feet Under, those two were acted opposite each other. So I always remembered that note. Speaking of recurring character actors, Daniel, what's your take on Robert Foxworthy?
I think it's a great pick. I mean, technically, Peter, he played 3 characters, right? Because he was a changeling as well in that one scene.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I love bad guys who think they're good guys because they think the end justifies the means. And my one word I associate with him is that sense of conviction. Like, everyone who thinks he's wrong is wrong because he's so committed in both of those roles to what he believes is ultimately for the greater good. And I find that kind of villain so compelling, and he's perfectly cast, which is, I guess, why they brought him back to play such a similar character again, because he really does it so well.
Yeah.
If the Lakota fires on the Defiant, you will be opening up a Pandora's box that may never be closed.
Then contact the Defiant and tell them to stand down.
Excellency.
Again, you have my deepest sympathy for your loss. All of Vulcan grieves with you.
With all respect, we aren't leaving. Not until we know exactly what happened.
I've also contacted Admiral Gardner. I'm sure you'll be hearing from him soon. A pleasant journey.
Son of a bitch hung up on us.
And just one quick thing. I just wanted to mention from a book perspective, for anyone who's interested in the Velas character, he does return in the Enterprise Rise of the Federation novels, the 3rd book in particular. So we get to see him again.
I've only read one of those. I at some point I'm going to catch up on my reading with those. I love it. Okay, let's go to my round 4 pick. This one's a massive deep cut, at least for me. He's a prolific Star Trek actor who he just always sinks into the background, and I never really even knew his name until just like a few years ago. And I'm not sure how many people will recognize his name. 5 words and a hashtag. Subtle character actor disappears convincingly. Hashtag 7 characters, 8 episodes. And the actor's name is Thomas Capacci, and he's one of only like a very few number of actors to play 7 or more different characters on Trek. And the others on that list are Vaughn Armstrong, Jeffrey Combs, J.G. Hertzler, and Randy Oglesby. So those are like some big names to go with Thomas Capacci. So I'm going to rattle off some of his roles here. He had 3 TNG roles. Mirak from the Next Phase, who's the Romulan commander who basically set up the feedback loop to try to destroy the Enterprise. So he's the guy on the ship who tried to sucker punch the Enterprise. He was actually the train conductor in Emergence, who has like this crazy, goofy mustache. He was a bridge officer on Generations. He was Kira's father. That's probably his most memorable role. Kira Taban, Ties of Blood and Water, and Wrongs Darker than Death or Night. And then I like this one too. In Broken Bow, he played one of the Vulcans in that opening scene. He was, and the name of that Vulcan is TOS, T-O-S, which I always loved that. And he played, this is crazy to me, he played the Sphere Builder test pilot in Harbinger. So full makeup for that Sphere Builder, I guess test pilot is the best name for him. So my choice, though, another memorable role was he played Viorsa, who was one of the aliens in The Thaw from Voyager. And that's my pick, The Thaw. He's the guy who they chop his head off in Voyager in The Thaw. And that's always so memorable to me. It just really stands out. The way he played that, the chaos. He is terrified when they are bringing him to that guillotine. It's terrifying for the viewer. I'm never comfortable watching that, knowing that, oh my God, they chopped this guy's head off. And just brutal. All right, trivia. 78 years old, still with us, born in Manchester, New Hampshire. He had recurring roles on The West Wing and Boston Legal, 2 shows I didn't really watch. And Daniel, guess who wrote The Thaw? Joe Menosky. So,
lovely Joe. Good old Joe, yeah.
We love Joe Menosky. All right, so are you aware of Thomas Capacci? I'm probably not even saying his name right, Daniel.
I honestly didn't recognize the name. When you started talking about him, the thing that flashed into my mind when I realized who he was, isn't he the guy who corrects the pronunciation of Klingon? In that when they find the Klingon,
because they
showed that was in the promo for Enterprise. So I must have seen that clip about 55 times where someone says Klingon and he says Klingon.
Yes,
that's that to me that's his great contribution to Trek is that is correcting the word Klingon to a bunch of humans who have no idea what it is. But yeah, that's a great deep cut. He's one of those guys who you see him. And even if it's just for a second, there's a kind of gravitas to him that is I guess why he gets hired for those kinds of roles, because he does a lot with, I think, quite a little. So yeah, it's a really, really good choice.
Yeah, seriously. Peter, what's your take?
Yeah, I think, I remember the name on the credits, even though I don't remember some of the roles, but you mentioned The Thaw, and that was definitely a vivid memory because those types of images and scenes were, really they kind of stick out because it's so, so unsettling. And the other one that you mentioned was the Emergence. Was that the sort of the
funny.
Orient Express,
right.
The Orient Express with the railroad, and the next stop Vertiform City or something like that. And that was a good. I remember the engineer because again it was a similar, kind of an odd visual of a train with all these different odd things happening. So
he's got a big thick mustache that looks like a comb, and it's a pretty funny outfit.
Eat your soup, courtesy of a loyal establishment. Jolan True.
Okay, let's go to the soup round. Daniel, let's hear your soup round pick. Sounds like you got a good one.
Well, it's, this is absolutely not a recurring guest character actor at all.
Okay.
But it absolutely is a recurring guest character actor. And that's exactly why this is my pick for the soup round. 5 words and a hashtag. Miracle worker of many voices. Hashtag not just Scotty. And this is, of course, the mighty, mighty James Doohan.
So good.
Who is, truly the hero of the animated series, I think. Yeah. And look, I love Montgomery Scott. He's probably the most important Star Trek character in my life. And we have a standing appointment in episode 227 or whenever it will be for the top 5 Scotty episodes. I'm going to be back for that. Yeah. But, James Doohan really, as a voice actor, was, I think, a master of his craft. He demonstrated astonishing range across 2 scenes of the animated series. He was the voice of Arex, who was a regular character in the cast, but also these iconic guest characters like Robert April, the devil himself, Lucian, Thelin, who is Spock's replacement in Yesteryear. Oh. He voiced Kor and Koloth. So, absolutely vitally important characters. He was also the voice of the M5 computer in TOS.
I was just about to say M5.
Yeah, I know. So he's, James Doohan gets all my respect, all my admiration. And I had to do it, Jim. My episode pick for this is the Counterclock Incident.
Honestly, love this. I love it.
Robert April. He's great as Robert April. He's the original Robert April
too.
It's brilliant. That had to be my pick. So
Counterclock Incident. I'm going to go ahead and hit the gong right now and assume that's the first time it's ever been picked.
Oh, really? It's really? Okay, I can't believe that.
Let me just verify quickly. Confirmed. It is the first time the Counterclock Incident has ever been picked on TrekRanks.
Well, that's an outrage. It wasn't picked sooner, but I'm delighted that that's my contribution to TrekRanks history.
Okay, but the one I also just have to say, Peter, before we go to you, he also played Sargon from Return to Tomorrow, which always blew me away. That James Doohan was the voice Sargon kind of voicing over. It's such a there's no way you realize that's James Doohan.
A supremely talented voice actor. He really was.
So good. Peter, well, I know you love this pick.
Oh yeah, that's right. Anything TOS, TOS references, gets a check mark there. So, I mean, like you said it, James Doohan's such a key player in not only TOS but TAS, and with all the voices, all the characters that he's played. So, such a versatile actor. So I think that's a great pick in reference to the sort of the early days of the franchise.
And I'm just thinking too, he's in Prodigy.
He is. I was delighted to see him in Prodigy. Yeah.
God, so good. All right, so many. That's such an awesome pick. Okay, Peter, what is your number 3 pick?
Okay, number 3, 5 words and a hashtag. Earlier ad astra per aspera. Hashtag Romulan scientist housekeeper. So my number 3 pick is Carolyn Seymour.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, she's she had several different roles. She was Romulan Commander Toreth in TNG's Face of the Enemy, which is my episode picked to represent her, which is season 6, episode 14.
All-time classic.
All-time great, yeah. And she was also Marasta Yale in TNG's First Contact. She was the Romulan Commander Taris in TNG's Contagion. And she was Mrs. Templeton in the Janeway Gothic novel in Voyager's Cathesis and Persistence of Vision. So really, like you said, Face of the Enemy is my favorite Deanna episode. And she was really, really good as kind of her Deanna's adversary. So her facial expressions, sort of how she felt, she was honest about how she felt about Deanna, which, really wasn't very highly regarded. So I think her Commander Toreth was really memorable. And the quote that I remember from when I was sort of rewatching it was, people blame the military for the wars we are asked to fight, but I think it is your kind, Major, that will be the death of us all. Between that role and between Marasta Yale, she wanted to explore space and go to the stars, and she, even though her program was paused, by the end, she was able to leave and leave on the Enterprise. And so I always wonder if we get a chance to see her one day, see what happened.
I love this pick. So Carolyn Seymour is one of my most consistent picks. I picked her on One-Off Heroes. I picked her on my top. I think she's my number 1 Trek crush. I love Carolyn Seymour. She is amazing. And Marasta Yale is always. First Contact's always near the top of my list for all these picks. She's just so good. She's always just authoritative and smart and in control. But it's so great. She's just so great. I absolutely adore her.
You did this. You sabotaged my ship.
Oh, no.
I cannot deactivate the auto-destruct. But at least I have the satisfaction that you will die with us.
Not, I think, today, Commander.
Is this a joke? Did Lupo and the others from the lab put you up to this?
No, it's certainly no joke. As you can see, we are physically quite different from Malcorians. And with your permission, I'm prepared to prove it to you.
I would like that.
Always time to meet your friends, Marasta.
Chancellor, I think you might want to clear your afternoon schedule for this. Protection. From what? How is the Empire threatened? By the words of an old man, a devoted citizen who merely tried to speak his mind. How did the Tal Shiar protect the Empire? By dragging him, my father, out of his home in the middle of the night.
Clearly, your father was a traitor.
No. He was just an idealistic old man. I never saw him again.
I don't need your devotion, Commander. Just your obedience.
And that's all you have.
Carolyn Seymour, but I didn't pick her just because I picked her so many times. I said I'm gonna keep her on my secondary systems. I'm so glad you picked her instead. Daniel, what's your take on the great Carolyn Seymour?
She was on my list for a long time with the hashtag my favorite Romulan because Toreth is my favorite Romulan. It's a great performance. She is incredible in the role, and that kind of dinner scene where she's so reveals her disdain for the intelligence network of the Tal Shiar. And there's just so much going on. And I just think the idea of this noble, like a truly noble, Romulan, we hadn't really seen that since the very first Romulan on TOS. And she plays it so well. And I could have easily had her on my list. So we are completely in sync on that, Peter.
Yeah. Perfect pick. Okay. Let's go to my round 3 pick. So I said in all my picks that they have to have at least 4 characters. And Daniel, you said a minute ago that Robert Foxworth actually played 3 characters because there was a changeling character he played. So that's where I'm cheating a little bit on this one because I really wanted to include her in this one. So my 5 words in the hashtag: strong, authoritative, and hopeful. Hashtag 4 different roles, 4 characters, 3 shows. And my pick is Susan Gibney, the great Leah Brahms, and also the great Captain Benteen in Homefront Paradise Lost. This is the 3rd mention of Homefront Paradise Lost. And if you're wondering what other character she played, well, she played the holodeck version of Leah Brahms. She played the real Leah Brahms, and she played Rutherford's fantasy vision of Leah Brahms in Mining the Mind's Mind, which I love that she came back to play that. So I'm picking Susan Gibney, who technically 2 characters, but she's made 4 different appearances across 3 shows. So, and I love her as Captain Benteen in Paradise Lost, especially, which is my choice for the episode. Susan Gibney, what's your take on that one, Daniel?
I love this pick. She's one of these performers who, every time you see her, she's playing a human, but somehow just like tying her hair back really tight, she looks completely different. It's the weirdest thing, but I did not recognize her the first time I saw her come back in Homefront as that character. But yeah, I always felt that she had this interesting kind of legacy in a way from really not doing that much on TNG. I think, am I right in All Good Things in the future? Doesn't Picard allude to the fact that Geordie's married to her? So I think she's kind of has this kind of suggested bigger part of the overall story than we actually get to see. But yeah, she's a great performer, I think.
Another great pick. Mentioning Homefront, it was actually, and I forgot about this until I rewatched it recently, but it was actually Captain Benteen's decision to not follow Admiral Lighton's orders that kind of sort of turned the tide. So she played a critical role, in the whole plot. And of course, like you said, Daniel, Leah Brahms is pretty well known within Star Trek, even though she was in 2 episodes and then more recently in Lower Deck. So, and it was in, I kind of wished in Picard season 3 when Geordie mentioned to his daughters, tell Mom that I'm going to be late, that I was hoping, I was like, oh, maybe we could see her on the view screen or something, or a reference, but it didn't mention it.
They definitely kept that ambiguous.
They kept that a little bit vague. But another thing within more recent, I believe it was the Star Trek Resurgence comics, which was the prequel comics to the video game.
I read
Leah
those.
Brahms,
she's in there.
I think she's in there. So I think they kind of, given her popularity, they kind of try to bring her, in, whenever they can. So this is great to keep, to keep the character referenced within the show.
And I forgot for the trivia, she is 62 years old, still going. And she was actually one of the the last actors in the running for Janeway back in the day when Genevieve Bujold won it out, and then they brought back Kate Mulgrew. So could have been a big deal there. So okay, Susan Gibney, I love her. I had to get her on the list. I'm so glad you picked Carolyn Seymour. What a soup round! That was awesome. Let's go to round 2. Daniel, what do you got?
This is the only pick that has never left my list, even for a second. As soon as you said the topic, I knew that I not just that I wanted to, I almost felt obliged to talk about this. So my 5 words and a hashtag, inspirational to the very end, hashtag the ultimate Klingon, is of course Kenneth Mitchell, who we recently lost, who truly was a great actor. And I think what was remarkable about him was his incredible commitment to what, in some cases, were very small, short roles. But, the degree to which he learned Klingon and could read Klingon and, exactly what this topic is all about, which is that idea of versatility, that we see him first in a couple of roles where he's very vicious and brutal. And then he comes back playing these very gentle, intellectual characters. I really think that he was someone who, of course, I wish we could have seen more of. But as Cole, as Kolshar, as Tanavik, as Aurelio, he would, plus multiple voices on Lower Decks. I think he was a real gift to the franchise. Star Trek was lucky to have him. I met him when I went to STLV in 2019, and he was just so great to talk to. I'm nominating his performance as Kolshar in Point of Light as my pick, because I think that's probably his least appreciated one. And I do think it was a really cool character, this kind of old schemer who's out-schemed by Giorgio in the end. But I had to talk about Ken, so that was my pick.
I'm so glad you picked him. He was my toughest cut because I decided I wanted to have across different series. And of course, I forgot that he did all those Lower Decks roles, so I could have had him picked anyway. But listen, what incredible human. For all of us, I know a lot of people out there had the good fortune of interacting with him at conventions. I had that good fortune. What a great guy, just so genuine, such an incredible performer. And I like what you said, Daniel, the way he split between, really on Discovery, he had 2 just incredibly aggressive, difficult characters who were just, coming from that, aggressive is the right word. And then, more soft-spoken, intelligent characters with Tanavik and Aurelio. Just so incredible. And I just want to shout out, Cole is unbelievable. This Klingon, I'm going through my Discovery rewatch right now before the 5th season drops. I just can't believe how good Cole is as a character. And that is all down to Kenneth Mitchell. And that's, people talk about the new makeup. They talk about the teeth affected people. Not with Cole, man.
Yeah.
Cole, just when you watch Cole, that's a Klingon. These guys just Klingon through and through. There's no baggage. There's nothing. It's just incredible. So not want me to get off on a rant, but the guy was so talented.
And this belonged to your captain.
Her name was Captain Philippa Georgiou. I regret that my actions that day have locked our people into this war.
While I thank you for it, my rise to power would not be possible if not for the assassination of Tukufma. Lock her up. Once I return with the slayer of their messiah, what remains of Tukufma's torch-bearing fools will have no choice but to fall in line.
If you are to capture me, then prove your worth. Tukufma defeated the woman whom that belonged to. Do me the same honor.
Such a sad thing, but just to speak to the man and just how graceful and impressive he was facing that with his family and with everybody so publicly. It was an incredible thing he did.
I accept your challenge, human. Time flows differently for those who protect the crystals. The past, the present, the future are all equal in their presence.
Peter, what's your take on the great Kenneth Mitchell?
I mean, he was on my secondary system, so he was definitely up there. And like you said, I mean, you could tell sort of how he is as a person through just the interactions. I'd never met him face to face at a convention, but through the, virtual panels and events that are online, I kind of listened to him talk about his life and his experience, and you could tell that, he really appreciated, the role that he played in Star Trek and appreciating life and, just sort of a wonderful human being. So it was really great. We were able to, talk a little bit about him today.
Yeah. A funny story. When I met him, I was walking in the hallways of STLV, and he was with a friend of mine from CBS, and I thought it was Aaron Harberts, who's one of like the executive producers on Discovery. This is before Discovery first aired, so this is like the summer of 2017. And I thought I was being really clever. I was like, "Oh, you're Aaron Harberts," and he was like, "No, I'm Kenneth Mitchell," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, you're the Klingon." And it was really very funny exchange. But I always remember, I was like, "Oh, what an idiot I am." Incredible pick. Thank you, Dan. I'm so glad you picked it. Emotional. Peter, what is your number 2 pick?
Okay, my number 2, 5 words and a hashtag. We're getting a second chance. Hashtag from Klingon to writer to Herosian. My number 2 pick is Tony Todd.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, yes.
So he is, and actually I realized after I wrote my 5 words that it actually applies to both his appearance on The Visitor and his appearance on Sons of Mog. We're getting a second chance.
Oh, that's
so
nice. Yeah.
The Visitor is really one of my favorite episodes. Every time I watch it, I always, get emotional, especially towards the end. As I get older, you kind of appreciate the performance and sort of what his words between himself and Ben is. So, really great performance there. Obviously, playing Kern, Worf's brother in 4 episodes, and Sins of the Father, the Redemption, and the Sons of Morg. And the Sons of Morg is the episode I picked to represent him, which is season 4, episode 15. Wide variety of emotions. He had fear, sadness, jealousy, disgust, when he was dishonored from Worf's action earlier. And then he wanted to commit suicide, try to get Worf to help him. And then he just said another line that I wrote down. I have nothing, not even my honor. You took away my honor, and only you can give it back.
Oh man.
So
brutal.
just really, really, great as Kern, as Jake Sisko, and also as the Alpha Herosian in Voyager's Prey, which was another role that he was in. And you could tell actually, it's like once you listen to him, you have that, that's Tony Todd's voice,
The voice.
that voice, that kind of I know it's like pent up anger, but it's he's controlling it, but you just don't know when it's going to be let out. So he was really, really great, and I wanted to acknowledge that.
I mean, I'm glad you picked him because he's an all-time acting legend. No doubt about that. Everyone loves the guy. He's so impressive. I'm thinking, Daniel, back to when we did one-off Klingons, and you were on that show, and we both thought we were so clever because we picked Tony Todd as a one-off Klingon, as
Rodek.
Rodek, the reborn Klingon out of Kern, and we both had the same pick. We were not that clever because we both had.
Yeah.
But listen, he's on my secondary system. I ruled him out because of his recurring role as Kern, because that was my prime directive. So, but otherwise, he's on every list because he's that influential. Daniel, what's your take on Tony Todd?
I mean, he would have 100% been on my list if not for the fact that we had that discussion in the previous episode on One-Off Klingons, where we both cheated our way to talking about Kern as Rodek. And I feel like I kind of, I said enough about how brilliant he was there that I wanted to talk about different performers here. But yeah, I mean, he's absolutely brilliant. I think him as adult Jake Sisko was the revelation, because it was so different to Kern. And I mean, just so warm and so human and so vulnerable. And I mean, it's just incredible. He was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. All-timer Tony Todd. Let's go to my number 2 pick. This is the pick who was always on my list. In fact, I've always known whenever we did this topic, he was always going to be in my top 5. He's my number 2. I love him. 5 words in a hashtag. Acting with poise and dignity, hashtag. 4 characters, 5 episodes. And this is James Sloyan, the legend.
Knew it.
Yeah.
So somehow I knew it.
So he is Admiral Jarok from The Defector. That's my choice. That's his most memorable, incredible role. Admiral Jarok, not Sub-Lieutenant Sitow. And he also played Dr. Mora in Deep Space Nine, The Alternate and The Begotten. He played Kimtar and the future Alexander Rozhenko in Firstborn. And, of course, his other really memorable role was Jetrel in Voyager. So he's just such a distinctive actor. He's got this poise and gravitas in his performance. It's an incredibly unique voice. It's not like strong or sharp. It's just like cutting. I don't know. It's just the guy is just really, really impressive how distinctive he is as an actor. So he was. So this is an interesting note here. I was looking up some trivia here. So he's 84 years old, still with us from Indianapolis. And I just thought this is an amazing note. So this is the 6th time the Defector has been picked on TrekRanks. It was a triplicate pick in our top 5 Romulan episodes, which you would expect. And now it's been picked by me 3 times, which means no one else has ever picked the Defector outside of that Romulan episode. So that's crazy to me that somehow this all-time great episode of Star Trek hasn't been picked much. So he was my one-off hero pick more than 6 years ago in episode 20 as well. I loved Admiral Jarok.
Romulan defector is almost a contradiction in terms. But Admiral Jarok crossing the lines?
I explained my motivations to your interrogators.
Yes. Peace in our galaxy. Except, Admiral, you are not a man of peace. Your military record, what we know of it, is clear.
Which is precisely why I chose an alternate identity here.
The massacres in the Norcon outposts, for example.
What you call massacres were called the Norcon campaigns on my world, Captain. One world's butcher is another world's hero. Perhaps I am neither one.
Okay, Daniel, what's your take on James Sloyan?
I'm not going to say much except that I completely agree with you, Jim.
Okay. Well, your pick is next, so let's do it. Are you ready? Is that your pick?
It is. Do you want to fire the...
Let's go to round 1 right now. Let's hear your 5 words and a hashtag.
It's just like we got so far through, and I thought, I bet Jim's going to do it right. And then you said 5 characters, 4 episodes, and 4 characters, 5 episodes. I knew it. So yeah, this is James Sloyan, who my 5 words are incredibly poignant and painfully flawed, which I'm sure you'll agree with. Hashtag never human. But when I thought about this topic, I thought there's something special about the fact that he's played 4 very important characters and has just absolutely slayed his part every single time. Yeah. There's something really poignant about the way he interprets his characters. Obviously, I love Firstborn. I love what he does with Alexander. I love The Defector. I love, again, this kind of this regretful sincerity of this Romulan who knows he's kind of lost his place in the galaxy. Really interesting as Odo's father, because he's much less sympathetic than you would expect him to be. You would expect him to be a bit warmer and a bit more compassionate, but he isn't. But my episode pick is Jetrel, which is, that's maybe my favorite episode of Voyager. It's such like a timeless... rumination on, the devastation of the technology of war. I mean, it is the Oppenheimer story, told frankly better in a much shorter amount of time. And it blew me away. I remember watching Voyager for the first time, and that to me was the first really great, TOS style classic morality play episode. And he was fantastic, as I thought, as Maborja Trell, and trying to undo this thing that he can't undo, this terrible, terrible thing that he had caused and would never forgive himself for. And I love the episode, and I love him in it. And as I said, it's just something about, he was so good every single time. So he had to be my number one pick.
I love that he's potentially our only duplicate tonight, because the guy deserves it. He defined recurring character actors.
Yeah.
Or maybe not recurring, but he defined character actor, right? Because when TNG was hitting season 3, his performance in that, people just knew it. Everyone's aware of it. James Sloyan, that guy is amazing. James Sloyan, that's a name that a lot of Trekkies know just because of how impressive he's been in these 5 episodes and 4 characters. Peter, what's your take on James Sloyan?
I think it's time to fire up those Defiant torpedoes again.
I love this. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm so excited that he's a triplicate 3 in a row like this. So cool.
Yep. My number 1 pick is James Sloyan. I mean, my just for the record, my 5 words in the hashtag: Oppenheimer before the summer blockbuster. So what Daniel said, and then hashtag a defector and 2 scientists. So pretty much, said everything. His episodes, definitely some of my favorite ones, between the defector as Admiral Jarek, Jetrel, which is also my episode to represent.
Good.
James Lawrence, season 1, episode 15. I think Jetrel and probably Eye of the Needle are my 2 favorite from early Voyager era. And then Dr. Maura Paul. So, I mean, like you said before, like both of you said, he has this, also like that presence, and like you said, that voice. It's like authority, but it also shows, I don't know if humanity is the right word, but but just have sort of a nice, supportive person. So I think that might be the type of roles he's gotten. I think in both Jarek and Jetrel, he played, he regretted what he's done in the past, and he was trying to, make things right.
Yeah.
And with Dr. Maura Paul, something similar, in which he, regretted how he treated Odo when they were together years ago, and then he was trying to sort of establish more of a father or a family relationship with Odo. And then the line that I remember from that episode, when he told Odo, working with you has been the most rewarding part of my career. I guess as anyone with kids, as they get older, become teenagers, and then the parents kind of realize, it's really their time to kind of be out on their own. And there was a scene towards the end of the alternate in which Maura Paul kind of realized that, Odo's really, ready to be on his own and doesn't really need him as much anymore, but he wants to continue the relationship. So when Jim told me about this topic, I pretty much had James Sloyan number 1,
exactly,
and that hasn't really changed since the beginning. So yeah, great. We all James Sloyan.
I really didn't
3 in a
think that
row.
was going to be the case. I think maybe 15 years ago, but I thought maybe his star had faded, or that's not the right term, but just that he wasn't the obvious pick. Like if you're doing this episode 20 years ago, it's like everyone's talking about James Sloyan, because he hasn't been in Trek since Jetrel, right? I mean, that's a long time ago. But those 4 characters in that kind of tight window, pretty impressive. So, although maybe the Begotten was after Jetrel. And then just to put a pin in Dr. Moore, what a great performance there. You said it, Daniel, that because he's not touchy-feely. He's not open. He's very strict with him. And he says he's not a yes man. He's not telling him what he wants to hear. He's being, really firm and clear. And it's, it works. And it's just a really impressive performance. Okay, James Florian sweeps right there. That's incredible. I'm so fired up.
It's a James Florian on home front episode.
Yes, I love it. I love it. 3 home fronts, 3 James Florians. Okay, hey, it's not time for stats yet. Okay, let's go to my round 1 pick to close.
Yeah, let's hear it. I'm dying of curiosity now.
This is my other guy that I knew was going to be near the top of my list. I just love this actor. I've mentioned him many, many times on TrekRanks, and I'm pretty sure I did it in an episode within the last 3 or 4 episodes. I can't remember what. 5 words and a hashtag. Controlled but seething emotional rage. Hashtag. 4 characters, 4 episodes. This is Leland Orser. He is I'll tell you his main character, well, his 2 main characters are the hologram in Voyager's Revulsion, the kind of horror homage episode, the hologram that's murdering the crew and trying to murder B'Elanna. And he also played Loomis in Carpenter Street. Leland Orser, who was, I guess, murdering people there too, or maybe not murdering, but taking them to the Zindi to kill off. So he also played 2 other characters. He was Lovok, the changeling / Romulan in The Die Is Cast, the one that ended up helping Odo at the end and couldn't understand why Garrick was helping Odo. No changeling has harmed another. We heard it there from Lovok. And then his first role was, actually it's an impressive little role in Sanctuary. He's one of, along with Walter Koenig's son, who I can't remember his name, but he's one of the 3 male characters flaking his skin all over Deep Space Nine. If you remember that episode of Deep Space Nine, just kind of in the background. So I just love this actor. He's just really, really interesting. He stands out for me in everything he does. He's really impressive at being unhinged, but also right on the edge of control without losing it. I really love this guy. Great actor. He's very much cut from that Brad Dourif model of kind of fringe, like I just said, on the edge, losing control. So really impressive. 4 distinctive one-time appearances in 3 different series, and he's still with us, 63 years old, born in San Francisco, still acting. And Leland Orser, I love him. Daniel, what's your take?
I never in 1,000 years, Jim, would have guessed that would be your number 1 pick. And I think that's what makes it such an exciting pick. I agree. He's a great actor. I would say he absolutely embodies, what a character actor is. Right. In that just when you see him, you just save like 10 minutes of character work, because you kind of got to read on him very quickly from his mannerisms and his body language. When I think of him, I always think of him dying in Alien Resurrection.
Yes.
I don't know why. That's probably his biggest contribution in broader pop culture, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a true character actor. So that's a really, really good choice.
What a great shorthand you said there. Like that's what he does. He saves this extra time for the writers in the show, just in his performance, to kind of communicate what this character's about. Peter, Leland Orser, what's your take?
Yeah, actually, the scene I remember the most from him on Star Trek was from Carpenter Street, the drive-through, the fast food drive-through scene.
Yeah.
When pretty much my favorite comedic moment in I think in Enterprise, when they were just going through the drive-through with all the he was trying to get a free hamburger. Yeah, I think Loomis was trying to get like an extra Big Mac or some a larger size fries out of Archer. So.
Welcome to Burgerland. How may I serve you today?
I'll have the double super beef, no lettuce.
1 double super beef without lettuce, please.
You can make that a triple for only 40 cents extra.
Do it.
A double will be fine.
Would you like to make that a combo?
Yeah, fries and a medium root beer.
It's a total standout for me. So incredible. All right, I got a ton of secondary systems. So let's jump into this. Daniel, who just missed your list?
Let's see what you can do with the secondary systems.
I had a few obvious ones. I had J.G. Hertzler on because I felt like he was great when he wasn't Martok. I had Tony Todd on. I had Scott McDonald on my main list for a long time.
Oh, good one.
Because I thought Garanagar and Nivek, the Jem'Hadar and Hippocratic Oath, and then his role in Face of the Enemy. I love both of those episodes. I think he's great in both of them. And he's someone who, again, I don't think he gets a lot of fame or attention, but I just found he's Tosk as well, right? And he was recurring on...
not Degra.
Right. Dolim, right?
Dolim.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really got a lot of time and admiration for Scott McDonald, but I couldn't quite fit him in the list. There's no one I could take off to make room for him. Clint Howard, I was almost going to talk about Clint Howard. Because again, I love those actors who, from TOS to Discovery to Strange New Worlds. It's amazing. Have the legacy he's left.
Five characters, 5 different series.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And then, if I'd known he wasn't going to be picked by someone else, I would have picked Mark Lenard. Because I just thought, from the Romulan commander to Spock's father, even just within TOS, the idea of a recurring guest actor, I mean, he was so good. So great, and just those 2 roles in that series. And then he obviously comes back in the films, he comes back in TNG.
Yeah.
But so those are my main kind of secondary systems.
And the first actor to play a Romulan, a Vulcan, and
a Klingon. Yeah,
first one. Mark Lennon, incredible. I love that one. And Clint Howard is a no-brainer, right? I mean, from Balak all the way to Under the Cloak of War, just incredible. Peter, who is on your secondary systems list?
The one that was on my 5 picks for a while was Tricia O'Neill, who plays Captain Rachel Garrett on Yesterday's Enterprise. She was also Karak in TNG Suspicions, Carinus in DS9's Defiant. So she was there for a while. Catelyn Hopkins, we talked about, she was there. Clint Howard, Kenneth Bishop. Oh, Peter Weller, I was thinking of him. He was on Enterprise, and he was Admiral Marcus. Into Darkness, so and RoboCop. So
the thing I love about those is that he played those 2 characters within within 4 episodes of each other. Because he was in those.
That's right.
He was in those final 2, and then, and then These Are the Voyages, and then Star Trek, and then Into Darkness. He played it again.
Yeah, so we got a lot of Peter Weller in our show period of time.
Yeah.
And then I had Annie Wershing, who was the Borg Queen, and Liana.
That's a really good pick.
So that was good. And I think Liana actually was her first acting role.
First ever acting role.
Yeah,
incredible.
so that was
that she spanned that bridge over Star Trek. Incredible.
And then, actually, speaking of, I had Clint Howard as well, and I was reading up, and it was 57 years between the Corbomite maneuver and Under the Cloak of War. I think he might be sort of have that record of the longest time between.
You literally can't break that record right now. That's the 3rd episode of Star Trek, and and one of the most recent.
Almost the last. There's a J. Paul Bomer.
Bomer. I have in my notes 2 Nazis, a Vulcan, and a Borg.
That's right. Yeah. I was hoping to get him back for the Vulcan because Mistral from Carbon Creek. I think there was Picard season 2 had a sort of one episode that.
Right. Yeah.
With the FBI agent, So I thought, maybe it's him, but I don't think it was Meg. So so those were some of my picks, some of my secondary systems.
I'll race through a few. I had Randy Oglesby, Degra, obviously, another great one. He's played a ton of characters through the years. One that I really wanted to consider was Day Young. I love her. She played 3 characters in 3 series, all really distinctive. So she was Hannah Bates in Masterpiece Society. She was Arissa in A Simple Investigation. And then she was Kayla in 2 Days and 2 Nights. So I always thought she was really impressive. I had to include my boy Roy Brocksmith, Sirna Kolrami in peak performance, and also he was Razka Karn, just an incredible actor. Razka Karn is in one little tiny scene, and I want to see this character in everything. I love it. That's Indiscretion from Deep Space Nine. Check it out if you don't remember, a Bajoran kind of traitor. who hates Gul Dukat. Another one, Megan Gallagher. She is a great genre actor, body and soul, invasive procedures. Her big role was Little Green Men.
Right.
She was in a show with Lance Henriksen called Millennium in the 90s that I love. She's a great actor.
Yeah, I think for Megan Gallagher, I was listening to a podcast, and I think when they were trying to find an actress to play Nurse Garland, they were trying to say, "Oh, just get someone like a Megan Gallagher type," and then they found out, oh, she wants to do it. So I said, okay.
She's perfect. She's so good. Andreas Katsoulis, of course, Tomalak.
Yeah.
He's in Co-Janitor, and of course he's Babylon 5 fame. I had Robert Foxworth on my list, J. Paul Bomer. Glenn Morshower is one that I really thought about. So he was in Peak Performance as well. And he's a bunch of background characters like Starship Mine, Generations, and Resistance. And he had the big role in North Star as Sheriff McCready. But he's a pretty well-known actor these days. And then 3 special shout-outs to some TOS legends. William Shallert, who was Barris in Trouble with Tribbles, and he also played Varani, played that instrument that Kira brought him in to play in Quarks in Sanctuary. And then I love this one, Morgan Woodward, man. He played Captain Tracy in Omega Glory and Simon Van Gelder in Dagger of the Mind. 2 incredibly unhinged performances. And my last one, acting legend Dick Miller he was in The Big Goodbye as a newspaper guy, and of course he was one of the police officers in Past Tense that was getting agitated with Cisco. And Morgan Woodward and Dick Miller, when I was doing my research, they died within a month of each other at 93 and 90 respectively in 2019. So I just thought that was impressive. A couple of legends there. Okay. Well, I knew Secondary Systems would be fun to just cover a lot more ground. There's so many great recurring actors that make Star Trek what it is. Incredible stuff. All right, let's get into our regeneration cycle. We're going to recap our picks and go through some stats.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
All right, Daniel and Peter, recap your picks right now. Daniel.
Okay, pick 1 was Brock Peters as primarily Joseph Sisko in Homefront, Deep Space Nine. Pick 2 was Caitlin Hopkins primarily as Kilana in The Ship, also Deep Space Nine. Pick 3, James Doohan as Robert April in The Counterclock Incident from the animated series. Kenneth Mitchell as Kolshar in Point of Light from Discovery. And then at the top was James Sloyan as Jetrel in Voyager.
Fantastic. So you had 2 from Deep Space Nine, 1 from Voyager, 1 from Discovery, and 1 from from the animated series. Represented. Incredible. Peter, how about your 5?
Okay, my number 5 pick is Phil Morris, Lieutenant John Kelly from Voyager's One Small Step. My number 4 pick is Robert Foxworth as Administrator Balas from Enterprise's Kashara. My number 3 pick is Carolyn Seymour as Amanda Toreth from TNG's Face of the Enemy. My number 2 pick is Tony Todd as Kern from DS9's Son of Morg. And my number 1 pick is also James Sloyan from Voyager's Jestrel.
Love it. So you had 2 from Voyager and then 1 each from TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Enterprise. And my top 5 was Joseph Ruskin, Gamesters of Triskelion, and a bunch of other roles for TOS. Number 4 was Thomas Kopachi from The Thaw in Voyager, and a bunch of other roles. Number 3, Susan Gibney, Leah Brahms, and Captain Benteen. I picked Paradise Lost, Deep Space Nine. Number 2, James Sloyan, The Defector, TNG. And my number 1, Leland Orser. I love that guy. Revulsion, Voyager was my pick. So I had 2 from Voyager, 1 each from TOS, TNG, and Deep Space Nine. So on the stats, I only really, a couple of things here. So you mentioned that James Sloyan never played a human, and I thought that was really interesting. So I quickly scanned our picks to see who else of our picks did not play a human, and they all did except for Caitlin Hopkins.
That's right, yeah.
And I thought there was one more.
Do you count a holoprogram as a human for Karen Seymour or not?
Yes. I was counting that as a human. Caitlin Hopkins and Joseph Ruskin, Gamesters of Triskelion. So all of his characters, and from Gamesters all the way to Broken Bow, he never played a human. So 3 of our 15 picks never played a human. All the others had at least one human in there, including Carolyn Seymour playing a hologram. Okay, and then so other than that, the statistics, we had one duplicate, and I knew this was going to happen because I struggled. And this is unfortunately kind of this is part of, television production for the last 60 years. I knew there was going to be heavy male dominated picks. So we had 12 men and only 3 women picked. And I'm telling you, that's because there's just not as many recurring options for women in terms of breaking this down. And I dug deep on that. So I just knew we each had one woman in our picks. So interesting statement there, but that's why we keep these stats. They're fun to break down. Okay, and then the series breakdown, we had 7 different incarnations of Trek picked, 1 each from Enterprise, the animated series, and Discovery and TOS, 2 from TNG, and then the heart of 90s era Berman Trek, we had Deep Space Nine with 4 and Voyager with 5. So I think those numbers are pretty damn great. I love it. Okay. We are going to initiate a temporal inversion because now it's time to hear from you.
Initiate temporal inversion.
Initiating.
And for this week's temporal inversion, we're going back to episode 174 in our top 5 ensemble episodes, which is such a fun topic. We got in 2 great lists. So one was an all poker playing ensemble list. I love this, from @TrekWarsFantasy on Twitter. So this is great. He had All Good Things poker scene. He had Cause and Effect from TNG, the recurring poker scenes.
Yeah.
He had from Descent in TNG, Data, Einstein, Newton, and Hawking poker scene. From Lower Decks in TNG, he had the Lower Decks players playing poker alongside opposite the regular crew playing poker. And then, of course, his last was the final poker scene from Star Trek Picard in The Last Generation. So that was a cool way to do an ensemble pick. And then we got a great list in from Paul Edinger, who's @CT complete with 5 words and a hashtag. Here we go. Number 5. But what about the cup holder? Hashtag read alert in singularity. That was a good ensemble episode for all the Enterprise crew. Number 4. The Lapping Vulcan and his dog. Hashtag this is not a good time, Keiko. Disaster from TNG. That was a popular pick. Number 3. Underrated Harry Kim badass moments. Hashtag Viva la Resistance. Oh, the Killing Game. Yeah, that was another popular pick for ensemble. With something going on there. Number 2. Oh, this is an interesting pick. Number 2. My number 1 underrated episode. Hashtag Happy Birthday. It's Distant Voices from Deep Space Nine. So he is a fan of Distant Voices. That's a polarizing episode. A lot of people do not like that one. I've always enjoyed it. Number 1, literally an ensemble Trek episode. Hashtag, I had to pick it, Subspace Rhapsody. I should have known. All right, the most popular ensemble pick ever. So once again, those picks more than enough to clear ourselves from this week's temporal inversion. So as always, I want to thank everyone for all our great responses to the TrekRanks podcast. Keep your list coming to me @TrekRanks on Twitter or Blue Sky so we can retweet them. But we also want to hear from you. So put together your own list of top 5 recurring actors or a list from any of our past shows. Give us a call at the Tricorder Transmission at 609-512-5527. Or you can just record your own list and send me a DM. We connect that way too. So hopefully we'll hear from you so you can be featured on the next episode of TrekRanks. And on the next episode of TrekRanks, we are going back to one of our favorite topics. It's our series of abstract shows. So thus far, we've done things like letters and numbers and shapes, and we did silence and counting. So next week, we're going into a new abstract territory. It's the elements. Next week, for our 8th abstract topic, we are doing abstract fire. So Daniel and Peter, definitely some interesting ways to interpret abstract fire. So if you had to choose something right now with no time off the top of your head,
you cannot spring no, Jim, you can't spring abstract fire on us like it's something that's at the tip of my brain.
You can pick.
I would pick as my abstract fire off the top of the dome the fire burning within Ensign Mariner, because I feel like she's someone who absolutely personifies that idea of an inner fire driving everything she does. So Mariner's my pick.
Daniel, I'm sorry, that is too abstract. So don't get it. So good. I love this. This is why we do abstract topics. You can do anything you want. Peter, what do you got for abstract fire?
Oh boy. I'm not very good with abstract, but I'm thinking of, well, the first thing that jumps to mind is what was it, Night Terrors? Night Terrors, when Troy was floating in the sky. Yes. And then at the end,
One moon circles.
One moon circles. And then at the end, when Troy sort of reaches the alien and the alien kind of reveals himself, it kind of looks a little like a fire. So it's
okay. There you go. It's a good pick.
It's interpretation.
Night terrors, the fire that in that weird special effects scene, like with when the alien floating in space.
Yeah.
One moon circles. Fantastic. Abstract fire. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait.
Channel closed. Reset. Subspace communications. Scrambler code Riker 1.
All right. Scrambler code Riker 1 acknowledged. Let's close this episode out with a huge thanks to Daniel Martin and Peter Hong. Incredible having you guys on. Such a fun topic. Any final Trek Scrambler codes? Either one do you want to relay before we depart? Daniel.
Just that this really was, Jim, a really, really good topic. It was one, when you suggested it, I was like, and it turned into a really, really fun conversation that I was very glad to be a part of. So really, really nicely put together. Thank you.
I feel exactly the same way. Peter, thanks for coming back on.
Oh, sure. Of course. My pleasure and my honor. Like Daniel said, it was a really great topic. It's a little bit of a, trip down memory lane as we, think about 50, 57, 8, 9 years about Star Trek. So really enjoyed, and it gives us a chance to acknowledge all the hard work that the actors on the franchise has done over the years. So,
well said.
Thank you very much.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Just that celebrates all this incredible work from all these different actors. So I love it. All right. Thanks, everyone, for engaging with us here again on episode 181 of the TrekRanks podcast. As always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong.
Those are consequences, Dr. Dutrell. There is no way I can ever apologize to you, Mr. Neelix. That's why I have not tried. Did you ever think that maybe your wife was right? That you had become a monster? Yes. The day we tested the cascade, when I saw that blinding light, brighter than 1,000 suns, I knew at that moment exactly what I had become. I hope you have to live with that a very long time. I'm afraid you will not get your wish, Mr. Neelix. And why is that? I have advanced matremia. I will be dead in a matter of days.
Just want to remind everyone again that the entire TrekRanks catalog is available for you to download and listen to at TrekRanks.com and on your podcast player of choice. Our episodes never get carbon dated, so check out the topics you've missed and maybe just want to listen to again over at TrekRanks.com. And a reminder to check out our friends 5-Year Mission at 5yearmission.net. They're writing a song for every episode of Star Trek, and you won't believe how great their music is. They also have a podcast at the Trek Geeks Network, so seek them out. You won't regret it.
Rest easy, Brother Benny. You have walked in the path of the prophets. There is no greater glory.
Tell me, please, who am I?
Don't you know?
Tell me.
You are the dreamer. And the dream